Good evening, everyone, and welcome to our first Ad Hoc Committee meeting on ethics and workforce culture. Today is Wednesday, September 25th, 2024. With us this evening, we have Councilmember Adams, Councilmember Johnson, who are both committee members. We have Councilmember Ballerin. And our staff, Brian Jimenez, Jake Eastland, and Shaniqua Jackson. And I am going to apologize to all of my fellow council members. There are a couple things that I want to go over, so I apologize if you feel like I'm talking too much. This evening we're going to deal with some of the basics that we've done behind the scenes in order to get ready for this meeting this evening, including the documentation that we've obtained thus far. After that, we'll take public comment, and we are expected to go into executive session for a portion of this meeting this evening. So prior to this meeting, we did submit a records request to Administrative Services. We will be dealing with that issue a little bit later in this meeting, but thus far we have obtained the city's policy and procedure manual as well as their equal opportunity employment handbook. I reviewed those documents and noticed Administrative Services this morning that there were some concerns about differing language on how to file harassment and discrimination complaints. The EEOC handbook requires that those be handled via the department, whereas the policy and procedure manual requires that those be done by HR and referred to HR. So we asked for them to take a look at that. Another issue that I found in reviewing the policy and procedure manual is that the city does not appear to have, under its ethics policy, anything governing outside activity or employment. While it talks about the ethics in terms of the implications for activities that may intercede with city business, it leaves that process and determination up to individual employees, so we will likely ask them to take a look at that. And my review of the city's time and attendance policy with regards to their policy and procedure manual, I noticed that the language in there was rather vague. We'll likely be requesting specific departmental policies for both ethics and time and attendance. Is there anything else that I necessarily need to cover, Jake?
Not that I can think of. I think if anybody else has things that they would like to get out in advance, yeah, but otherwise.
And I will say, for the members of our blue-collar workers who are here with us this evening, I think it's important for you guys to know and understand the breadth of what this committee can and cannot do. So we formulated this committee due to concerns that were expressed by city employees regarding ongoing discrimination in the city's workforce. We will be looking into those issues, but we will not be able to produce any findings that may result in administrative action. Anything that comes to this committee, for there to be action taken by the city, will have to be deferred back to Administrative Services. We also don't have the ability as the council to restore anyone's employment or recommend anybody for a promotion who we feel may have deserved a promotion and was overlooked. Those are things that may be contained in our final report back to the administration and the remainder of the council body, but it will be up to the administration to take up those actions. And I just want to make sure that everyone from the public who's viewing tonight and anyone from our blue-collar workers understands the limitations that the council has with regards to these issues. Alfredo, Derek, Sergio, do you have anything you want to add?
Thank you, Chair. We're here today really because the willingness of you to come forward and share your experiences. You know, I, on a personal level, sat in the same seat that y'all are sitting in when I worked for the city a number of years ago. So I'm still getting phone calls. I got a phone call yesterday. And as long as those calls come in, it's showing that it's a need for this conversation to be had. So, you know, without you coming up and telling your stories, it doesn't help us get here. And we're here to figure out how to work through the difficulties that people are experiencing, because that shouldn't be the case. So, again, I want to say thank you, and I look forward to doing this work.
Do any other committee members want to make any other statements before we move on to public comment? Okay. So first, I'm going to call up Alex Catello. And if you give me a second. So as with all public comment, you guys will have 5 minutes.
Good evening, esteemed members of the Albany Common Council. My name is Alex Catello, Labor Relations Specialist for ASBE Council 66, Local 1961. And I'm here before you today to address a pressing issue that weighs heavily on our membership in the Albany Blue Collar Union: racism and discrimination within our city's workforce. As we strive for a more equitable and just Albany, it is imperative that we examine the systemic issues that affect our residents, particularly those belonging to protected classes. Today, I want to bring your attention to several troubling cases that exemplify the urgent need for reform and accountability in our hiring and disciplinary practices. First, let's discuss the cases of 4 positions in our bargaining unit, 4 individuals who share the common experience of being members of the protected classes due to their race. Each of these individuals face severe disciplinary actions, terminations, and suspensions without the due process guaranteed by a lateral hearing known as the Employee's Day in Court prior to discipline being implemented. A sanitation equipment operator was terminated on April 25th, 2024 for alleged attendance issues while he was on a last chance return to work agreement. He was sent home without pay, stripped of his livelihood, and denied the opportunity to defend himself. This is not just a procedural error. It is a violation of his rights and a stark example of how our systems can fail those who are already marginalized. Similarly, a sanitation worker received a suspension on April 18th, 2024 for alleged harassment, again without a hearing. 2 Labor 3 employees faced termination for attendance issues, also without a hearing. Even when one of our members prevailed through final and binding arbitration procedures, City Hall prevents him to this day on regaining his livelihood. This member is here today that was wrongfully terminated and was awarded his job back with back pay on July 18th of this year. City Hall is still refusing to return him to work and pay him his back pay. When we examine these cases closely, we cannot ignore the disparity in treatment compared to their white counterparts. For example, an equipment operator, a white male, had multiple attendance violations, yet received only a verbal warning in May 2023. In June 2024, another white male that had multiple time and attendance violations that progressed to a suspension had his next violation regressed to a written warning. This inconsistency raises serious questions about fairness and equality within the city's disciplinary processes. Moreover, the case of a union representative, an automotive mechanic, is equally concerning. He was denied multiple promotions to vehicle maintenance manager, equipment operator 3, licensed automotive inspector, despite being qualified for those positions. One individual who denied him, Dale T., now holds the position of vehicle maintenance manager, the very promotion our member applied for. Our member has also faced unfounded allegations of workplace violence, which have kept him out of work for an extended period, and the city has refused to provide information that has been FOIL requested regarding this incident and the alleged discrimination involved. This pattern of behavior suggests not only personal bias, but a systemic issue that must be addressed. These incidents are not isolated. They reflect a broader culture of discrimination that undermines the principles of equity and justice we strive for in Albany. The recent equity study conducted earlier this year highlights these disparities and calls for immediate action. We cannot afford to be complacent while our fellow citizens face discrimination and injustice in their workplaces. In a troubling case of unethical conduct, An operations manager that is no longer with us today at the Water Department had exploited his position to engage in fraudulent practices by entering into contracts for work that was never completed, thereby receiving compensation unjustly. This misconduct not only undermines the integrity of the department, but also wastes taxpayer resources. Compounding the issue, a current deputy commissioner at DGS had created his own company in September of 2023 and subsequently secured a contract with DGS, raising serious questions about conflicts of interest and the ethical implications of self-dealing. Such actions erode public trust and they highlight the urgent need for oversight and accountability within the government operations to prevent similar abuses in the future. As members of the Common Council, you have the power to implement change. I urge you to take decisive action by reviewing and reforming disciplinary policies to ensure all employees, regardless of race, are treated equitably and afforded due process. Establish training programs for supervisors and HR personnel to recognize and combat implicit biases that may affect their decision-making, creating an independent oversight committee to investigate claims of discrimination and ensure accountability within our city departments, and engaging in community members to foster an open dialogue about these issues and work collaboratively towards solutions. In closing, let us work together to create a city where all individuals are treated with dignity and respect, where fairness is not just an ideal, but a reality. Thank you for your time and consideration, and I look forward to your commitment to addressing these critical issues to our community.
Thank you. This next name, I'm having a hard time reading the first name. I think it's Dajae Washington. My apologies.
If people have a written record of their comments and would like that to be provided to the council, they can just leave that with myself or Brian.
If you could just state your name and where you live.
Okay. Dajae Washington. I live in the city of Albany. So my name is Dajae Washington. I worked for the city for about 10 years. I've never seen it this bad before. As vice president of Local 1961, I get a lot of complaints and reports from different blue-collar members from Water Department and DGS. Some of the complaints that I get is supervisors telling blue collars to tell on other blue collars, and when they do, they go back and tell the other employee that this blue collar just told on you, which is causing workplace violence and arguments on the catwalk. Supervisors cutting overtime or creating overtimes for friends, family, or themselves. Supervisors taking payment like liquor, beer, money, and other forms of payment, some sexual in nature, for special assignments or overtime. When reported to the front office, it's swept under the rug. Supervisors using jobs assignments for retaliation. Blue collars making reports and complaints to HR, and just about every single one of them come back as not found. And HR tells the supervisor that a complaint was handed in by someone in the person name, so that creates retaliation. And a lot of people say to me, you know, you see what's happening to you. I don't know if you guys know about my situation. So about a year ago, I put in a complaint for dib-ups. I did a job for more than 60% of the time. And a week from the day, which was, I won the arbitration case in my favor. A week from the day, I come into work, it was February 14th, and the supervisor and the deputy commissioner and a blue collar and me and another supervisor is in the tool room, and they're accusing me of ordering tools and not doing my job and stealing. So I tell them I'm going to leave before I say something that gets me in trouble. We went back and forth for a good 20 minutes before I left the room. I left the room, and the deputy commissioner followed me from one side of the building to the other side, which is almost 100 yards to 200 yards. talking crap behind my back, yelling and screaming, following me, antagonizing me, provoking me to the point that I just lost it. I was sent home on administrative leave for workplace violence. I had a meeting with HR on February 15th. On February 15th, I found out that the supervisor said in the office with my union rep, he called me a hard N-word. Nothing seemed to happen after he called me the hard N-word. I was still on administrative leave. I come back to work. They threw out all the stuff in my desk. They emptied out my truck, threw the stuff out. A coworker had to take my stuff out the trash. My personal belongings, jackets, coats, and stuff like that. Ever since then, no matter what job promotion, what job title, anything within the city, I've been denied, no matter what the circumstances are. So, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Robert Wilsey. If you could just state your full name and where you live.
Robert Wilsey, Albany.
Go ahead, you have 5 minutes.
I had an incident, just like Dajay said, breaking, when I was hired from the commissioner, when I first got hired, the commissioner told me that whatever I say to any supervisor is confidentiality. They are not to go back and tell the person. Well, it happened to me twice. I had to change the shifts, and then it happened into this shift that I'm in right now. And they, like Jai said, it could have escalated in a bigger problem on that catwalk. I'm not afraid to say it. And then they should have been just gone, because they were not supervisors at all. That's all I got to say.
Okay, thank you. Next up, we have David Jones. Okay, we'll go back to him. Frank Coons. If you could just state your name and where you live.
My name is Frank Coons. I'm a lifelong resident of the city of Albany, currently at 109 Kent Street, where I've owned the house since 2000. Ladies and gentlemen of Albany Common Council, my name is Frank Coons, and I stand before you today not just as the president and member of Local 1961 Blue Collar Union, but as a representative of voices that often go unheard. I come to you with a heavy heart, driven by the urgent need to address the inequitable treatment of minority members within our union and the troubling responses of lack thereof from the city regarding serious allegations of discrimination and workplace violence. In February of this year, our local union vice president reported a grave matter involving workplace discrimination and violence. We were assured in writing by the commissioner of DGS that this situation was finalized in April 2024. Yet when we submitted a FOIA request for details, City Hall responded that the investigation was still ongoing. This raises a critical question. Is the commissioner misrepresenting facts, or is City Hall providing false information? The lack of clarity is deeply concerning. The situation escalated when more recently, Council 66 reported a direct threat against me. An employee allegedly declared, "I'll F Frank Coons up if my father doesn't get the job," which is one that Dajay applied for. This threat was reportedly investigated by the Equal Employment Opportunity Office. However, on September 12, 2024, we learned that the office found insufficient information to substantiate the claim. Following this, we filed a FOIL request for documentation regarding the investigation, only to be told on September 20th, 2024, that there was no documentation exists. The contradiction raises even more alarming questions. Is the EEO compliance officer being untruthful, or is City Hall failing to provide accurate information? The lack of transparency is not only frustrating, but also deeply damaging the trust between city employees and our leadership. Adding to my personal anguish, I have been the victim in the past of an unsolved attack in Albany. The loss of my wife to cancer has compounded my grief, and inadequacies in the city's responses only heighten my anxiety when reporting to work. It's disheartening to know that those of us who serve our community are not being afforded the respect and safety we deserve. This pattern of neglect must end. We need accountability, we need clarity, we need the city to stand up for all its employees, especially those from minority backgrounds who are often left vulnerable. I urge this council to ensure that thorough, transparent investigations are conducted and that we receive the support we need to foster a safe and equitable work environment. The integrity of our city depends on it, and so does the well-being of its employees. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. David Jones, is he back in the building? Thank you. David, if you could just state your name and where you live, and I'll turn on the timer. You'll see it turn green and then yellow and then red when your time is up, okay?
Yes. Name is David Jones, live in the city of Albany, current DGS employee. My concern is I'm concerned about the way the city is dealing with issues at our job. It's a lot of covering up from the commissioner on down. And it seems like if you voice your opinion or make a complaint, it's retaliation against you. I believe it should be some kind of committee set up in between DGS and HR, because HR is the same as DGS. Any complaint you make, it gets back to them before you even leave the office. And the retaliation, I just made a complaint about a chief of supervisor, a captain of sanitation, taking liquor and everything for overtime and denying me my overtime because I told them I wouldn't pay. And I had a meeting with a union rep, Dajay, the commissioner, and Kathy, the liaison to the commissioner, and it was swept under the rug. I had to remind her this was a recorded conversation. I have a copy on my phone, the union have a copy on their phone, she recorded it. And it's just like, I made a complaint Monday, I've been off for the next 2 days, I hear that I'm gonna be, they wanna say I workforce violence or something, I threatened a chief of supervisor, which I never had a conversation with him in months. I don't even talk to the guy. And I just made a complaint Monday with them because they cutting back on overtime, but with their family members, they riding around in the truck giving them free overtime. And it's on video, but people saying this, they can't find the video or they don't have the video, but you got a chief of supervisor, a captain of sanitation, and a supervised sanitation riding around with a blue-collar employee getting free money, and my overtime is being cut. So, you know, my complaint is it's a lot of retaliation, and it's like the sanitation department is running like a gang at the job, and I'm concerned about that. Every time you say something, you got to worry about getting penalized or your job getting switched or your overtime being cut. I'm a person that speaks my mind, so I'm never going to stop. And that's all I had to say.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Tashawn Tarver. you could just state your name and where you live, and then we'll start.
My name is Tashawn Tarver. I live in the city of Albany. Good evening. In April 2024, I was wrongfully fired from my job at DGS, but my union stepped in and to help me. They fought hard for me through a process called arbitration. And in the end, they won. The city of Albany was ordered to get my job back along with back pay for the time I was out of work. However, the city of Albany has refused to let me return to work or pay me, going against the arbitration decision. This situation has made it impossible for me to pay my daily living expenses. I'm backed up in rent, and to make matters worse, the city of Albany has also challenged my unemployment claim for the time they had kept me out of work, saying I was fired for the reason why they wrongfully terminated me from my job, which goes against what the arbitration decision stated. I continue to struggle because the city is not honoring the decision that was meant to protect me. That's basically all I have to say.
Thank you, Mr. Tarver. Next, we have Nikita Hiltz. And again, if you could just state your name and where you live. The timer will be green, and then it will turn yellow when you have a minute left, and then it will turn red when your 5 minutes is up, okay?
Yes, ma'am. My name is Nikita Hiltz, and I live in the city of Albany. I'm a former employee of Department of General Services. I'm going to say I was forced to resign because I asked for a leave of absence, and I was told that I couldn't get a leave of absence. The only option I had was to resign. I asked to resign because I kept being put in unsafe situations. I'm in a truck with men that did 24 years, and they're threatening residents while I'm in the truck with them, and they're on the phones with their friends talking about buying guns, and they're rolling marijuana in the truck, and I'm sitting there like, what am I doing here? I go to my supervisor. I try not to get anybody in any trouble. I ask to be moved. He laughed like, huh, that's what 24 years would do to you. I'm like, well, and he thought it was funny. This is his friend. So I'm asking to be moved because I feel unsafe at work. He constantly, every day, put me with this man. It got to a point where I was having anxiety at home, crying, anxiety before I come to work. And I spoke to a couple of people. They kept forcing me to put it down on paper. I was scared to do that because I live in the city of Albany. I'm a single mother with 2 children, 1 with special needs. And you're asking me to tell on people that I'm sitting in the truck and they're talking about buying guns. Why would I tell on him and put that on paper? You know what I mean? I'm just asking for you to move me. Whatever he do at this job is not my concern. I just want to be moved because I feel unsafe. When I went to Paul, which I'm not quite sure what his position was, but he was the person that I was told to speak to. I asked him for a leave of absence because of the anxiety and everything that I was going through, and I kept being put in unsafe situations, so I needed some time. He told me the only option I had was to resign. The good thing about resigning, so he said, was that I'm leaving in good standing, so I can always come back. Now, I was moved to that department because I was being sexually harassed by my supervisors. I had supervisors offer me $100. I've had supervisors saying that they'll put laborers on my truck that I could drop off so they can come to my house and give me oral sex. I've had supervisors where when I'm not entertaining their advances, now I went from doing recycling for 3 months, now I'm put on trash. It was horrible. I would come in and get one work detail, and it's his uncle or his nephew that doesn't want to do his detail, so my detail is taken from me, and I'm doing somebody else's detail because they don't want to do it. I was forced to resign. I resigned. I put in an application to come back. I need the job. I have 2 children. I'm a single mother. I don't get any assistance from anywhere at all. And I need the medical for my daughter. I have a special needs daughter, and I would like to give her the best medical insurance I possibly can. So yes, I did apply to come back because I need it. And I was blackballed out of my position. I was told for 2 months that I was the only one that applied for the position that qualified. And then I just kept, it's a waiting game. They're not hired, they're bringing people in for more other positions that needed to be filled. So I'm just sitting and waiting. I'm calling every week, every couple of weeks, speaking to the woman that does the hiring. I'm being pushed to the side. Finally, I see that the job that I applied for was supposed to come down on the 30th of June. It came down early, June 7th. So when I called, and because I'm like, it came down early, they said, well, the position has already been filled. It was an in-house position. It wasn't an in-house position, it was an online position. And to get to where I couldn't get the position, they turned it into an in-house position and gave it to somebody else. My union, I've spoke with them a lot throughout a lot of this, and as you see, they're going through things, so it's only but so much they can help me with, you know what I mean? So, that's pretty much it. Thank you for listening.
I just have one follow-up question
Yes.
to you. Typically, we don't. When you asked to go on leave, were you advised of your rights to FMLA?
I wasn't advised of anything. I didn't have union representation or anything.
Did you have over a year of employment with the city at the time that you were asking for leave?
I'm sorry, ma'am.
Did you have at least 1 year of employment with the city when you asked to take leave?
I was off of probation. At the time, I probably was there 7 months, but I was just told that I couldn't get it. The only thing I could do was resign. They didn't let me know that I was supposed to have my union come in with me. They didn't tell me, hey, this is something I don't take care of. Go to City Hall. It was just, this is your only option. And I went into that office in tears. I was crying, I'm hyperventilating. I'm just like, I need to get out of here. I wasn't in my right state of mind. And anybody that saw me that day would have said the same thing, like, just sit down and calm down before you make that decision. And I felt like I was pushed to it because that was the only option that was given to me in the middle of me crying and breathing, you know, to be honest.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we have Ashand Brown.
How you guys doing? My name is Ashanti Brown. A lot of these guys know me. I've been with DGS now for probably 14 years. I don't have anything written down. I'm just going off, my head. I just wanted to piggyback off Dajay and, D. Jones about DGS is ran like a gang, and if you're not affiliated, it get ugly. And I know personally about the bottle service because I know some of the guys who started it, and it was a joke at first, and it turned into something that was legit. We know about the drugs. A lot of it sometimes comes from the supervisors. If you want an easy route, you go buy a bottle of Henny and you're like, yo, I'm a little tired, can I, so the bottle service is definitely real. The way it's ran like a gang is definitely real. And there's no, everybody's affiliated. You go to their supervisor, they know what go on, and it gets swept under the rug. And right now, if you look, there's nobody here, because when I'm in that locker room and we had these discussions, we don't feel like there's nobody that's gonna protect us. We come, we speak, we talk, and then it's retaliation. We know we're gonna be on the worst routes. We know we're getting written up. I walk on eggshells every day after being there 14 years over little things, because again, I'm not affiliated. And this room will be packed, but again, we don't see any type of, nobody going to bat for us. Again, Dajay can only do so much when I go to a hearing and my boss is his boss. Frank Coons everything is controlled. So we learn to just come in and just not say nothing, but the bottle service is real. The way they run it, it's like a gang. And, if you're not a relative, if you don't hang out, they try to base everything that it's not seniority based, because you know, a lot of the people that get these services, if you were to look at how long they were there, you would look at the detail and laugh. So, and like I said, it's crazy that we have to do this because it's known. Like, this is something, like I said, I've been there 14 years, and this is the worst administration I ever worked for. You know, it's to the point now I'm thinking about resigning if I had the opportunity to. And like I said, this room will be packed if we started seeing a change, because I'm in a locker room every day with about 40, 50 guys that has evidence of exchange of alcohol, exchange of marijuana from the supervisors. And it's not just sanitation, because even the higher up white collar, everybody's in cahoots, because even with DGS, nobody's promoted off hard work. Nobody's promoted off what they know. Everybody's promoted off the relationship, drinking buddies. And that's cool, but when you take it and it's like when you have a person that never had control or don't know how to use their control, it's chaotic, and that's what we deal with every day. And like I said, I could have this room full with about 50, 60 people that's ready with proof, that's ready to talk, but nobody's here because they know the retaliation that comes with it. So, like I said, I just wanted to piggyback. I didn't really have nothing written down, but yeah, it's bad, you know? Thank you.
Thank you. And I apologize for this one because I can't quite make out the last name, but it's Dominic, and I think it's Lito. My apologies. And again, if you could just start off by stating your name and where you live.
My name is Dominic Gaetano Lito. I live in the city of Albany. I am the late son of Charles John Lito. My father, SRS Truck and Scrap Recycling Services. I just buried him 4 weeks ago. I am last of 2 surviving members of Lito Brothers Paving. My family, over 100 years, has provided service to this city. Let me just start by saying I'm also the grandson of Sergeant Earl Daniel Hanchett, the longest serving New York State trooper, 46 and a half years. No other state trooper could beat his record. Also, chaplain, 33rd degree Masonic Mason. This is my bloodline. Now, let me piggyback off of something that Dajay said. Well, let me just start by saying I've been in the private sector most of my life. I am in the union. I came to DGS as a seasonal a few years ago. As a seasonal, I ran the curbside of the paver on 10 Ike Street. 10 Ike Street. Mike Carey was in the front. Devin, nephew of a captain, was on the side. As a seasonal, I was on curbside. I will only give you facts. Not that that's important because I've been doing this work my whole life, but the city of Albany gave a 5-star review on 10 Ike Street, and I was a seasonal curbside paver. As I started, then 4 months later, I took a job, entry-level labor 1, for blacktop and concrete. Now, that winter, Dajay Washington, my friend and my union vice president, was sick. Shane Moran, a great man who was supervisor of fleet maintenance, was burnt up, and they heard through the grapevine that I was mechanically inclined. So while Dajay was out sick a few winters ago, I was asked to go over to fleet maintenance to help. By the end of the day, I had 8 12-foot cutting edges on all the 12-foot plows, which required welding, which required use of oxygen and acetylene, etc., etc. After that, Joe Giebelhaus instructed Shane to dress me in a fleet mechanic uniform. Now, your records are going to show that I am a labor 1. I can tell you right now, that street sweeper outside, I'm the one that serviced him. I know the tire sizes. Let me just talk about your mini Packers for a minute. Mini Packer 437 and 438 have a 7502 oil filter on them. The rest of the Mini Packer sanitation trucks have a 1372 oil filter on them. They have 19.5 tires. They are called International CVs. As a Labor One, dressed in a fleet mechanic uniform, I was the guy responsible for keeping our equipment rolling. I was also on that property operating all their loaders, all their sweepers. I'm just trying to paint a picture for you. Now, when that incident happened with Dajé in the tool room, I was also in the tool room as a witness. And let me just say this. As I lost Shane Moran, my supervisor, and as I lost my partner, okay, it was me, Dominic Lido, the Labor One fleet mechanic that trained the landfill, that showed them how to use the lift, that showed them where the tools were. I know every tire size. I know every hydraulic filter. I know every oil filter. It's all there. It's on camera. All you got to do is look at my W-2s. What Labor One made $56,000 last fiscal year. I'm just giving you an example of what's going on here. There is also, we were accused of stealing tools. Ma'am, council members, my tools are still down there in the city garage. It don't matter. I don't care. I don't have any grandiose vision of ever going back to DGS. I'm in the running for a labor relations manager position at the recreational department. There is a $2,800 shop vac that Dajé and myself could not use to clean out that brine machine in the city garage. The list goes on, ma'am, and I go on facts. I don't go on fiction. My name is Dominic Gaetano Lido. Thank you for letting me share.
But before you get up, sir, I just want to clarify in your statement your intent. Are you stating that because you acted as a witness on behalf of Mr. Dajé Washington, that you were also retaliated against?
That and many, many, many more reasons. The fact of the matter is, ma'am, is like I say, I come from the private sector and I'm a leader, not a follower. And they're worried about me because I have actual proof on the corruption and the things that go on down there. That's just a minor example. Not, I want to say minor, that's a major example, but now they realize they made a mistake with me because I'm a leader, not a follower, and I could care less if I end up back to DGS. Okay. I provide a service for this city every day of the week and twice on Sunday. Thank you.
If you would be willing, sir, I would appreciate you submitting further comments to us via the union or directly to us in writing if you wish.
I will serve it to you directly in writing, and I will go through Alex, Dajé Washington, and Frank Coons.
Okay, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you.
And last but not least, Charles Sojourner. And Mr. Sojourner, if again you could please state your name and where you live.
Charles Sojourner, Albany, New York.
All right, thank you.
So basically, I'm here. I've been working for the Albany Water Department as a seasonal since May. I got permanent recently, probably like 2 weeks ago. And for this position with security in the alcove, my supervisor, Brian, he basically let me use he let me use a vehicle. When he let me use the vehicle to get to work, one day, he let me use the vehicle for like about a week. So I called out one time, because he said I got to stop using the vehicle. So when he told me to stop using the vehicle, I said, all right. I called out the same day that he told me I couldn't use the vehicle, and to put my vehicle on the road. So when I came back to work the next day, he fires me. He tells me the lack of, he didn't appreciate how I was, my work performance. He didn't appreciate my work performance when I only been there a week. I didn't have training, nothing. All the people that was supposed to train me, they wasn't even showing up for work. I was there by myself. So how can you just fire somebody off of a work performance? And basically, he was talking to me very disrespectfully since I started. Since I started that position, he was talking to me disrespectfully. It was like I'm not supposed to defend myself, say nothing back to him. So once I said something back to him, like I was trying to defend myself about my vehicle situation, he said, oh, I didn't want to hear it. I don't want to hear nothing. And just dismissed me and let me go. And I had perfect attendance since I started. Started with the water department. And I started May 14th as a seasonal, as a laborer, and I had no complaints, never missed a day, nothing. And then I get to this position working in the alcove, and it's a problem. And I understand it's not that many colored people over there. And they was talking to me crazy. They look at me crazy when I'm over there, like I don't belong there, basically. That's how they be looking at you, talking to you like you don't belong over here. And I'm like, it's crazy how I just got fired. I only been there a week and you just fired me? That don't even make no sense to me. So something gotta give with Brian, and it's not the only complaint with Brian. There's mad other complaints with Brian. So that's all I gotta say. Thank you.
And hold on one second, Mr. Sojourner, I just have one follow-up question for you. When you say that they act like you don't belong there, is that based upon, from your perspective, as being a member of a protected class, or as somebody who's new to that work location?
Basically, I'm saying I'm black. Everybody over there is country people. So they looking at me, talking to me like I'm nobody.
Sure. Come up to the mic so people can hear you, please.
Charles was a seasonal employee, like you said, from May, and he applied for the job at the alcove. The alcove is not in the city of Albany. It's how long of a drive, Charles, when you drove?
30 minutes.
30-minute drive. So when he says that he got a city vehicle to go to the alcove, he would come down to the water department at 35 or 10 Enterprise Drive. He would get a vehicle there, which he was given permission for before he even took the job, because he didn't agree to take the job before he took it until that was agreed upon. So he did that for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And then he came into work the one day and he got told the next day, no more vehicle, you need to find your own way. Charles then got done with his shift that day, called in for the next day because he knew he didn't have any way. That next day, he got a vehicle, went to motor vehicle, got it registered, got it all set. That day that he got it all set and he wasn't working, came down because he works at midnight, got some gear because it was starting to get cooler out, a sweatshirt with that says AWD on it, and he got told that from Brian that he needed to talk to him the next day. He showed up to work the next day with a new vehicle that he put on the road and everything, and that's when he was told, you're done.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood the context of your statement.
Yep.
Thank you.
So that's kind of just what happened with him, but the reason why he got the job in the first place is what he's saying. When he was down with us, he was there every single day doing a great job. And that's why he got the job in the first place. But he was
Once I
put.
showed up there,
Yep.
Can you turn your mic on so we can hear you?
I apologize. I think it's good for content because so he previously worked with the water department.
He worked the whole time. He never missed a day. So he was seasonal, and then he stopped being seasonal, and then started working permanent, but at the Alcove, which is, like I said, it's not in the city of Albany. It's a 40-minute drive.
So how many months did he work seasonal?
From May all the way till last week when this happened.
So so May until September. So it wasn't just that he was a new employee of only 5 days. He had more than 90 days.
Yeah, he was only permanent for 5 days. Before that, he was seasonal from
But he
May
had
till then.
90 days of, more than 90 days of history with the city.
Yep.
Okay. That's good for context. Thank you.
But for seasonal workers, when they work for the city of Albany, you work for 6 months, and then you're done if you don't get a permanent position.
No, I understand that.
And he was coming up on that.
No, I understand. I just want to, I want to make sure the record's clear. It wasn't just that he had history with, he had already been working for the city before he got the permanent job.
Yep, just not for the supervisor that he started with for that week. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Mr.
The new supervisor that I was working with, I didn't know nothing about him. He didn't know nothing about me, really. So, so the new supervisor, I didn't know nothing about him. He didn't know nothing about me. So I just met him. So off the rip, like, it was tension anyway. Like, when I used to talk to him, he always give me an attitude when I'm talking to him. And then once I went to the alcove and I met everybody started treating me like I was a nobody there, like talking to me, like downplaying me. Simple like that, just downplaying me. And like, you could tell that they were they racist. They was racist up there. So I kid you not, they are racist up there because they did the same thing to the guy that works there, Dominic. He's going through the same problems as me, but he's been there longer than me. But he ain't gonna come up here and say anything because he's been here.
And your first, you had, so your 4 months seasonal, May, June,
until September
July,
9th.
August.
Yeah, May until September 9th, I've been working.
Seasonal. And you had no issues in those 4 months?
No.
No, that's good. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's just, I just wanted to get that context. Thank you.
Councilmember Johnson also has questions for Frank and for you, Mr. Sojourner. Sorry.
So my first question, when you are referring to the alcove, am I saying it right, alcove?
Yep.
Is that-
Alcove Reservoir, it's like where the water is that comes to the city of Albany.
All right.
It's like Cooper Hollow. That's what the
Queemans, it's in Queemans.
I understand now. That was the question I had for you. And so my question for you, Mr. Coons, how long have you been the president for?
I've been the president since 2009.
So would you say that for a new employee like that, have you ever seen a new employee get, is that standard? Is that?
No.
Aren't you supposed to have steps before you, like, isn't there a step process once you enter the city as a new employee? And you have was that a union job?
Yes.
So wouldn't it, like, once you start your first day, it should be a verbal, it should be like kind of a process, right?
They told him that he was on probation, so that's what they told him. You're on probation, so.
But I'm speaking from the union perspective because I heard earlier that they had a meeting without union representation. So that right there should be.
He was on his first week as the permanent position?
I'm saying earlier from the young lady, I heard that she was in a situation that she had a meeting and she didn't have union representation. So
and that's correct on that one. She was past her 7 months.
But from the, and I'm just asking this, you know, because I'm hearing this, from a union perspective, wouldn't that be grounds, you know, like that's, I would just say it just sounds like if you weren't read your Miranda rights, you know, I see cases get thrown out. So I'm just trying to understand how a person can end up in a situation where they don't have a union representation and the union knows about that and it's still final. So that's just, I wanted to ask the president about that.
If I could just address that real quick. The city relies on when employees are in probationary periods where they have full control because they do not have the right to union representation for terminations under the contract. So when they have an employee in that 6-month window and the employee does not show up for work or does not show good attendance, they can use that to justify the termination of an employee without the union being able to fight the argument because it's a probationary period. Nikita's case, had the union been informed of her rights, we would have been involved in that meeting. We could have advised her not to resign, but they forced her into a resignation situation where they had documented writing of a voluntary resignation that by no means was voluntary.
Thank you.
Mr. Ballerin.
I'm not sure if this is a question for the chair or for the union. Do you know how many vacancies we currently have in the water department in DGS?
Yes, there's vacancies all the time, so yes.
Thank you.
We can ask for regular staffing reports as we go along with the committee process from administrative services. I have no problem getting that documentation for you guys. Mr. Sojourner, thank you so much for coming to speak with me. Frank, Alex, and Dejay, if the three of you could come before mics, I have a couple of follow-up questions that I think the union can best answer for us in terms of documentation that we would like to collect. And we will be taking public comment before each and every meeting. So if there is additional information that wasn't shared this evening, we expect we're probably not going to have a formal long meeting in October because we will be dealing with budget, but we expect to reconvene early to mid-November. In terms of the scope of documentation that we're looking for, I've heard a lot about time and attendance issues. I looked at the policy and procedure manual. I didn't see anything specific. Is it contained in your contract with the city that allows for summary discipline on time and attendance, or is there a specific policy for each department for DGS and Albany Water? Yep, just turn it on. It should be green.
The contract spells out the disciplinary process. All of our units, traffic, water department, DGS, and recreation, are supposed to be following the same process. And they have what's called serious offenses, and they have less than serious offenses. They have two avenues to follow. The typical process, and time and attendance is specifically listed as a less than serious offense in the contract. So they have the process of a written warning, a verbal warning, a written warning, then 1 to 3 day suspensions can be issued after that. And then if it gets to serious, they can go to 5, 10, 15, 20, and then termination. That's the typical process that's been followed. And for the most part, DGS has been following that steps, especially with, as was mentioned earlier, Paul Martin was the former labor relations manager at DGS. Thank God he is gone, and Kathy Kosa has taken over that assignment, and she's going back to following that process. But the other departments, such as water department, and I will send you comparators later, either later tonight or tomorrow, which will show you employees that have had discipline reduced. They get up to 3 day suspensions, and management would go back to written warnings. But if you're a minority employee, they'll jump from that 3-day termination or 30-day suspension. And the union, we are fighting those issues. We are taking those to arbitration. One of them is out to arbitration right now. We're waiting for a decision back on. But but at the time these arbitrations are going through, the discrimination is not recognized until we review and we say, these are 5 cases of minority employees being treated more aggressively in the disciplinary process by the water department. And that's specifically at the water department that's occurring. DGS, we've been able to navigate certain things to get things in a more correct order of following with Kathy Kosa back in that position. But hopefully that answers your question.
It does. And do you know, in terms of the overarching policies and procedures for workplace ethics, is there anything specific, like do your members have to report if they have another employer or anything like that to the city?
That is the big problem. When we've gone to HR, following their manual, reporting it to the HR coordinator or commissioner's office, and then we'd get there with those reports and being told, no, we got to go to EEO with it. No, we got to go to legal with it. But the procedure in the manual specifically says, go to your supervisor. If you don't feel you're comfortable going to your supervisor, get it to HR. So their written procedures aren't even followed. There's no method for employees to report things anonymously. And to keep that confidentiality from getting to supervisors where they're not in fear of retaliation. It isn't an easy fix. And the reason why I am here asking for the Common Council is because there is no leadership at City Hall. I'll come out and say, Mayor Sheehan, she is gone. She's already gone from her job, and she's not willing to let somebody else step up that could be the leader to go to navigate these things. Without that leader, we need something established where members can address these concerns. We'll keep fighting these. We'll keep fighting these cases. We'll keep winning these arbitrations. To Sean Tarver being out of work to this day, winning a final and binding arbitration decision, and for legal, Linda Keller to say we want to explore our legal options, threaten him with for charging him with perjury should he win his arbitration back in May. She sends a letter threatening to charge him with perjury should we win the arbitration. Well, we did win the arbitration. She still won't. She's telling DGS, do not let him back to work, and then telling unemployment he was terminated for cause when the arbitration defeated that argument. This is not going to, the union filing their arbitrations, our grievances to resolve these issues is not going to fix what's going on with the city. There needs to be an overhaul over there, and there needs to be leadership to take care of it. And the only ones we can go to right now are the Common Council, because Mayor Sheehan won't even listen to us to meetings. It gets referred right to legal whenever I request a meeting with Sheehan. And I'm told not to reach out to her, follow the chain, going to Marissa Francini, who's now the deputy mayor. And that's where we're at.
Are there other, other than the basic stuff within employment records, are there other policies, procedures, trainings, anything of that nature that you feel this committee should request and collect? And certainly if you don't have that answer today, you can
I will get back to you with information on that. There's just so much in the city of Albany. I wish I could point just to it being Loudermill issues, not where you're not giving those employees a day in court. It's not that. It's employees being denied promotional opportunities. I mean, there's a 10-day window where employees can apply for jobs online that are blue-collar workers, and they're going ahead and hiring employees outside within that 10-day window, not even giving our members a chance to apply, that are outside. That Frank Coons gets threatened to by the employee that works there, that if his father doesn't get a job, he's going to get effed up.
Yeah, and those employees don't even live in the city of Albany, but we have they're supposed to live in the city of Albany. I don't know who's checking on that, but obviously no one is. Why we have that in there, that you have to live in the city of Albany, I don't know why, because
they're not following it.
Since it's been in there, I don't think anybody's ever checked it, but our whole mechanic shop, besides one person,
no one lives in Albany, and they're the ones running havoc on the whole water department. So, you know, to short, I mean, the hiring practices need to be examined. The disciplinary process, the fact that City Hall and legal doesn't have access to water department, DGS, and all the disciplines going through them, whether they're resolved in-house or not, so they can see how employees are being treated either equally or not. From my standpoint, the cases that I've seen this year, and I don't take this lightly because I do not want to accuse the city of racism or anything like that, but when I'm seeing clearly our black and Hispanic members being treated far more harshly than their white counterparts, where I see regressed discipline, which, and I'm not even saying all our guys are right and don't deserve any discipline, but follow the process so they know they're equal standing, and it doesn't exist.
Mr. Johnson.
You know, sitting here listening to this, you know, on a personal level, I experienced, you know, the same stuff that we're listening to, you know, as an employee. You know, I got suspended for 2 weeks. I appealed it. I won. On the date received of my verdict, it was April 29th or something like that. It was July. I was asking questions. I came down here and I made noise. And I, if I didn't know my rights, let me just back up. I was, when I appealed it, the first appeal, I was told before I went, and he said, if you don't see a recorder, you pull out your phone and you tell them, I'm gonna record this. And so they had an arbitrator there, or the hearing officer, whatever he's referred to, it was a lawyer. He said, Mr. Johnson, that was a great question, because without a record, we can't have a meeting because we will have no way to go back. So just imagine if I didn't have the wherewithal to ask that question, they would have had a hearing that there was no record. If you having a hearing without a record, that means that they just had plans on business as usual. So, you know, Mr. Tarver called me and explained his situation, and I made a direct call. And I was led to believe that it was going to be dealt with because 1 + 1 = 2. And so when I walk in here and I see him, you know, I'm figuring that he's coming to tell his story, but he's back to work, and to hear that he's not back to work is bothersome. It's bothersome for 2 reasons, because he knew he could pick up the phone and call me again, and he didn't. And what we are experiencing in this city is the disconnection with local government, the disconnection of our departments in the city. You know, I have worked hard to establish a healthy relationship with DGS in spite of the number of calls and complaints and concerns that I get. And, you know, a lot of times I'm led to believe that they're dealt with. And just to hear what I'm hearing right now, and knowing what I know, because my phone rings all the time, that the equity report showed that people are uncomfortable sharing. And if people are uncomfortable sharing, that's a problem, because DGS is important to our city. The water department is in any department that the city has behind its name is important to our city. And if people are going to work, you're hearing bottle service, you're hearing people can pay to get, that's not a healthy work environment. And if people can't go to work and be in a healthy environment, it's going to be hard for them to be healthy in any other environments, because, you know, our success is connected to our check. Our check provides us a comfort each 30 days to be able to support your family, provide, and try to do some of the things that we want to do. And, you know, I'm Albany until my last breath. And as long as people call and people have are sharing stories, I got goosebumps right now, because I can remember how I felt. I felt helpless and hopeless. You know, some of the things that I'm hearing today, we've been talking about for the last 8 years that I've been on the council. And it's fallen on deaf ears of my colleagues, it's fallen on, so I understand. And that's why we're here with this ad hoc committee. And you have to know, and you have to promote when you talk to your current employees, and let them know that, you know what, this is a safe space for us to have a conversation that's going to lead to solutions. But without people coming forth and sharing their experiences, it's going to be hard for the whole picture to be able to be felt. So, you know, I want y'all to know that, you know, we're taking everything that we hear seriously, and we have to create an atmosphere. You have to know that it's safe spaces, because it's hard if you know, some of the things that I'm hearing, that information is being shared, that's not, you know, a team. And the department down there has to operate like a team, because the city is counting on it. So, you know, information being shared like that, that's not a good look. And I think that we have some serious work ahead of us. And once again, thank you for coming and being, having enough confidence in us to know that we're going to try to make the best out of this situation. Thank you.
I have kind of one final question for you for tonight. I'm sure I'll have a million more as time goes on. Thus far, we've heard a lot from your members in the water department and DGS, but you indicated that you also represent the Department of Recreation and traffic. Are we to assume that the problems extend beyond AWD and DGS and are encompassing all of those program areas? Because it will impact some of the discussions we may have in executive session today. That's why I wanted to ensure that we appropriately and adequately.
I'll defer to Frank on that more, but I haven't seen much coming out of recreation. Recreation has been pretty quiet disciplinary-wise. We have an employee from DGS over at Rec now that's going to be doing supervisory duties. So there could be, because I'm seeing a harsh discipline being issued potentially this Friday.
It has begun, and those departments, we don't have as many members there, so they're under 10 in both of them. So they're not as big for us. We got like 100 in each at the water department, DGS, and like I just said, under 10 in traffic and recreation. But yes, there is problems in both of them.
Okay, thank you.
And there's one, like Alex just said, kind of on the horizon at recreation. So
we're hoping we can work that out.
We're going to see what happens there on Friday. So.
Okay. Mr. Ballerin or Mr. Adams, do you have any questions or information that you need from anyone in the audience? Mr. Ballerin?
Well, thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman. I guess I know the committee is going to go into executive session, so I'm not sure if I'll be allowed to stay since I'm not part of the committee, but I did want to make a couple of respectful requests that the committee, you know, hopefully consider or take a look at information we pull. I think it's important for us to, one, get information about the incidents that occurred in April of 2024, specifically if members were told one information, but then later on told that the investigation is still going on. I think it's important that we pull that information so we can see where it is. The same thing with the September 12th allegations. I think it's important that we pull that or make those requests so we have a better understanding of where they are, as well as the one that went to not mediation. What is it called?
Arbitration.
Arbitration. Thank you. I think it's important that we, one, if the city is going to file legal action, find out where they are in that, because to have someone, and also find out if we're going to be doing that, you know, what's the time period where we have to be notifying the person of the fact that we're filing legal action, and not just hold it over their head without filing legal action. If we're not filing legal action, I think we legally have to comply with what has been decided. So I think it's important for us to get that information and then be able to get that information part of the public record. Because I think, I mean, I'll be honest with you, we have a vacancy issue. These are jobs that are hard to get people to do. They're difficult jobs. They're not easy on anyone's bodies, and they're not something you can do remote. You know, you can't do this on your couch. So, you know, these are the same people that stayed and worked through COVID. The same people that kept our city going through COVID. So we owe it to them to make sure we address these concerns and do the best we can to get that information. And again, I want to thank the sheriff for putting this committee together and moving these issues forward, because I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed for what I'm hearing is going on in our city here. And I think we owe it to our residents, we owe it to the people we asked to do this, to get some clear information and hopefully try to resolve some of these issues. More than anything, let people know that it's not acceptable, and somehow we got to hold people's feet to the fire to make sure look, discipline is important. I mean, full disclosure, I do discipline at the college, okay? You know, it's part of growth, something I always tell students when we're having those uncomfortable conversations. It's part of growth, but it's got to be done fairly and consistently if you're going to get growth and if you're going to get respect for the process. So I think it's important that we look at all of those issues and see how we can make sure that it's followed through in the future. And again, I want to thank all of the members from the union and all the union leadership for being here and putting yourself out there to share your stories and share that information with the council. Thank you, Chairwoman.
So just in response to Councilmember Balleron's statement, because we want to ensure confidentiality, the concerns that you have are going to be addressed in executive session. And if Mr. Easlin indicates that you would not be able to participate in today's executive session, what I will say is that there will be a point in which the full body will be in executive session, and I will be able to answer some of those questions for you at that time.
I appreciate that.
So, yes, sir.
Are you going to leave the evidence on the corruption from the commissioner on down? That's on audio file from the hearing?
I can email
He
it. I can email
he
it to
can
her.
provide that to us, and what I'm going to ask for staff to do is to hand you guys each one of my business cards that has my contact information. So if you want to contact me directly, you guys are more than welcome. Okay?
Chair, can I ask briefly, I know Ashanti Brown wanted to address something because he heard a comment earlier. Can I ask him just to address something very briefly?
Yes, please. And then after this, we are going to move to executive session.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to say earlier when you spoke on the union and like DJ, how you said like, you know, if you're not read your rights, you know, it's already illegal. I feel like DGS takes advantage of the union because we all work for the same boss. And, you know, like Dajay, his boss is my boss. So it's hard to fight for something when it's solely controlled. And I just heard him speak about discipline. And at DGS, we always see the employees disciplined. We never see the supervisors who I've seen allow people who come in drunk and say, yo, I need a light day, and they hand them keys to a truck. They've never been disciplined when I've seen what they do to the women that they're sexually active with, to the ones that dismiss what they offer. They've never been disciplined. I've seen the text messages. I've seen what they've done. Like, you know, I've been brought in the office about my personal dealings with an employee with off the record with no union because they felt guilty and wanted to know you know, what I knew or the text message that I seen. So it's always the discipline for us, but there's never any discipline for the white collars. When I'm on the clock and I see them grab a bottle out the office and walk in, they're drinking on the clock with the other employees. And this is things that we see. So the discipline is always for us, and whatever they say is law. And like I said, I feel like they just take advantage of the union, and that's why it's 6 people here, because everybody feels the same way. I just wanted to say that.
And one of the problems is when your person you're reporting it to just shoves it under the rug, and then you go to the next step, and the next step is in cahoots with the first people who you reported it to. So you go to the deputy commissioner, and they act like it doesn't exist, or they're gonna look into it, never look into it. You take it to City Hall, and they do the same thing. It just falls on deaf ears.
Okay.
Well, the other problem is we never get answers back from City Hall. So everybody here that's ever put in a complaint with City Hall, if it's unfounded, they never get an answer back, though. They never even know what's happened with their complaint. I've had complaints, still waiting to hear nothing.
Okay.
I mean, Jolene hasn't came up and spoke, but she used to be a labor 3 pay and went to DGS and took a labor 1 job just to get out of the water department. So, yeah. So
I just,
no one ever gets answers from the EEO officer on when they put those complaints in. So we go in and put our complaint in, but.
And a lot of our members are discouraged or afraid of retaliation because they see what happens over and over. Someone goes down, they make a complaint, you get back to the job the next day, the supervisor know about it, and they're punishing you for it. They're using the job assignments to punish you, putting you on the crappiest of routes or whatever it may be, just to punish you, to try to make an example out of you.
okay.
We shouldn't have to foil what our details are from our complaint.
Well, we certainly can make some recommendations around that. I don't think you're ever going to get to a place where you get a full summary of what happened during the course of an investigation. That's typically never disclosed due to confidentiality concerns. But I do know that the state of New York has a process for its human rights violations in which both the subject or subjects of the complaint and victim and or victims and complainant. So if the complainant's separate and distinct from the victim, they will first get a letter of notification. Well, the victim and the complainant will get a letter of notification saying, we've received your complaint and we are investigating it. And at the closure of that complaint, you'll get another letter saying it was substantiated or unsubstantiated.
We're aware about the state level. We got many people that are at that level.
So, I mean, that's certainly a recommendation that we can make back to the city. But at this time, I am going to move to go into executive session to discuss employment history of particular City of Albany employees. And what that means when the motion is passed is that we're going to have to ask to clear the room for everyone except for committee members. And Mr. Eastland, do you have an opinion on whether Mr. Ballerin is allowed to stay?
It's up to the committee who they would like to include. You know, often you'll want to include staff for the continuation of taking minutes.
Thank you for your time this evening. We really appreciate that you organized everyone to come down.
There will likely be a vote after the conclusion of executive session, but we can't make any guarantees about when that will be.
Do I have a second on that motion? Motion to move to executive session, discuss employment history. Second for Mr. Johnson. All in favor? Motion passes.